Okay, so the world's changing crazy fast, right? Keeping up is like a second job.
It really is.
But what if there were some secrets, like to global economic success? Could we crack the code?
Hmm.
Today, we're going deep on a challenge facing a huge GE chunk of the planet. It's called the middle income trap.
Okay.
And our guide is going to be this 2024 World Development Report, straight from the World Bank.
All right.
Don't worry, it's not all like dry economics jargon, I promise.
Okay, good.
This report's all about real countries, real people, and what their futures might look like, including yours.
Interesting.
By the end of this deep dive, you'll get it. What the middle income trap is, why it matters to like everyone, and the surprising part is what can actually be done to escape it.
It's definitely a fascinating topic. We hear a lot about the world's richest and poorest countries.
Right.
But there's this massive group in the middle, and the report shines a light on just how big this middle-income world is.
Yeah, how big are we talking?
We're talking 108 countries, 3/4 of the entire global population.
Whoa.
And they generate almost 40% of all the economic activity happening on the planet.
That's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But it can't all be good news, right?
Well, not exactly.
Here's where things get interesting, I think, right? This same group, they're the ones producing over 60% of all global CO2 emissions.
Yeah.
And they're home to most of the world's extreme poverty. So this isn't just some theory in a textbook. It's real-world stuff that affects all of us.
Absolutely. It has huge implications.
So what's the picture like in these middle-income countries?
Okay, imagine you took all their economies, combined them.
Okay.
They'd be worth like 3/4 of the whole U.S. economy.
Wow, that's huge.
But here's the catch. The average person in these countries, they earn only 1/5 as much as the average American.
Wow. That really puts it in perspective.
Yeah.
No wonder it's so tough to break into the high-income club, right?
Right.
I mean, the report said only 34 economies have managed to do it in the last 34 years.
That's right.
So let's get down to it. What exactly is this middle-income trap?
All right. Well, imagine a company. They make their money copying other companies' products.
Okay, yeah. Like knockoffs?
Yeah, sort of. They might do really well for a while, right? Low costs, existing demand.
Makes sense.
But eventually they hit a ceiling. There's only so far you can go with that strategy.
I see what you mean.
To really succeed, they have to innovate, come up with their own game-changing products.
So it's like becoming the inventor, not just the really skilled assembler.
Exactly. Countries face the same kind of challenge.
Interesting.
The report says to escape the middle income trap, you can't just copy, you got to innovate, you got to create.
Got it. So no more copycats.
Right. The report breaks down economic growth into 3 stages.
Okay, lay it out for me.
First stage is all about investment.
Okay, like building factories, roads, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Building infrastructure, all that works well at first, but then, like our copycat company,
Yeah.
the returns start to diminish.
So you need a new plan.
Exactly. Second stage is what they call infusion. This is where you strategically adopt global technologies, integrate into those global value chains.
Right.
Think about South Korea's rise in the 20th century. Went from war-torn to a tech powerhouse.
Yeah, an amazing story.
How did they do it? By aggressively adopting and adapting technologies from all over the world.
Smart. So they weren't just trying to invent everything from scratch.
Nope. They leveraged what already existed.
Leverage, good word.
And then there's the third stage. This is true innovation. It's where countries go beyond just adopting, they start creating, pushing the boundaries,
Okay, like trailblazers.
Exactly. The report gives the example of Poland. After the Soviet Union fell, they went through these huge reforms.
What kind of reforms?
They call them Big Bang reforms. It wasn't just tweaking a few policies, it was a complete overhaul.
Wow, a total system reboot?
Yeah, they opened up markets, privatized state-owned companies, and went all in on joining the European Union.
That's a bold move.
It was. And it forced Polish companies to compete on a global scale, made them innovate, develop their own unique stuff.
So sometimes a little pressure can be a good thing.
Absolutely. In fact, the report really emphasizes this idea of creative destruction.
Creative destruction? That sounds kind of intense.
It is. It's the idea that old systems, the inefficient ones, they need to be dismantled to make way for the new innovative stuff.
Got it. So out with the old, in with the new. But can you give me an example, like in the real world?
Think about the shift from horse-drawn carriages to cars back in the early 1900s.
Okay, yeah. Huge change.
The horse-drawn carriage industry was massive, employed tons of people. It was inefficient, ultimately unsustainable. Cars, well, they were disruptive at first,
Uh-huh.
but they led to a much more efficient transportation system.
Right, right. Makes sense.
But of course, this transition wasn't easy. There was resistance from folks who benefited from the old system.
Yeah, I can imagine. Carriage makers, stable owners, even the horse breeders probably weren't too thrilled.
Exactly, and that illustrates a key point. Creative destruction, it often faces pushback from those who have a vested interest in keeping things the way they are.
Yeah, nobody wants to be the horse and buggy in that scenario. But this resistance isn't just about economics, is it?
You're right, it's not. The report digs into the social and political aspects, too. Inequality, gender norms, even where you live, it all plays a role in who gets to participate in this new economy, who benefits from it.
It's a lot more complicated than just having the right economic policies then.
Exactly. It's about building a society where everyone has a chance to contribute and thrive no matter their background.
A level playing field.
Precisely. And this leads to a surprising insight from the report. Sometimes crises can actually be a good thing for development.
Wait, really? How can something bad be good? Explain that one.
Well, think about it. When there's a crisis, there's less resistance to change.
People are more open to trying new things.
Exactly. They're willing to consider new ideas, new approaches. It's a chance to break free from old patterns that might be holding a country back.
Okay, I see what you mean. It's like shaking things up.
Right. And right now, the climate and energy crisis, that's a prime example of this kind of shock to the system.
Okay, so the need to address climate change is forcing us to rethink everything about energy. That opens up new opportunities, right? New technologies, new innovations.
Exactly. And this creates a huge opening for middle-income countries. They have a chance to leapfrog over the old, dirty technologies and become leaders in this new green economy.
Interesting. So you're saying climate change is actually good for development?
Well, not exactly. The report is very clear that climate change is a huge threat, especially for the most vulnerable countries.
Right, of course.
But it also says that this crisis presents a unique opportunity, a chance for countries to speed up their transition to a more sustainable and inclusive economic model.
Okay, I see. A silver lining.
You could say that.
But earlier you said that protectionism from wealthy countries could get in the way of this progress. That sounds like a big problem.
It is. You see, while some developed countries are pushing for a green transition globally, they're also putting in place policies to protect their own industries. And that could limit the ability of middle-income countries to participate and benefit from this new green economy.
So it's kind of like saying go green, but not too green.
Sadly, it often feels that way.
It's complicated.
Very complex. There are always competing interests at play.
Okay, so navigating this middle-income trap requires some serious balancing, right? Embracing creative destruction, but also making sure everyone benefits from this green transition. That sounds tough.
It is. But the report offers some concrete steps countries can take. Remember those 3 areas we talked about? Disciplining incumbents, rewarding merit, and strategically using government.
Yeah, okay, so let's unpack those, starting with disciplining incumbents. What does that even mean in practice?
It's all about competition. Imagine a small business trying to compete with a giant corporation that controls the whole market. It's almost impossible.
Right, David and Goliath.
Exactly. Disciplining incumbents means creating a level playing field.
I like that level playing field.
It could mean breaking up monopolies, opening up markets to new players, making sure competition is fair, even for state-owned enterprises. It's not about punishing success, it's about creating an environment where everyone has an incentive to innovate and improve.
So basically shaking things up a bit, right? Making sure nobody gets too comfortable.
Exactly. It's about fostering a dynamic, competitive environment where innovation can thrive.
Okay, I'm with you. Now, what about rewarding merit? What does that look like?
Think about a world where success is based on your skills and talent, not just who you know or your family background.
Sounds fair.
Right. That's the idea. It means focusing on developing skills, starting with early childhood education and continuing through vocational training, apprenticeships, even lifelong learning programs.
So it's about giving people the practical skills they need to succeed.
Exactly. The report highlights some inspiring examples. Finland, for example, is well known for its education system that emphasizes personalized learning and practical skills development.
Okay, so we've tackled competition and skills. Now for the last piece of the puzzle. Strategically using government. What role does the government play in all this?
This is a big one. It's not about the government picking winners and losers. It's about setting the stage, creating the right environment for businesses to flourish and for new ideas to take root.
Okay, so setting the stage, not writing the script. Got it.
Perfect. The report goes deep into the nuances of government intervention. It highlights what works, what backfires, things like investing in research and development, providing tax breaks for innovative companies, streamlining regulations, all that. It's about supporting innovation without drowning it in bureaucracy.
Sounds like a delicate balancing act.
It is. It takes a nuanced approach. What works in one country might not work in another.
Wow, this is a lot to take in. Escaping the middle income trap isn't just about economics. It's about addressing social and political barriers, too.
You got it. It's a complex challenge, but the report offers a roadmap.
That's good, because I'm starting to think differently about global development. It's not just about throwing money at problems. It's about understanding these systems and how they all connect.
That's a great insight. And that's what makes this report so fascinating. It doesn't offer simple solutions. It acknowledges the complexity.
Yeah, the real world is messy.
It is.
But it's good to get a clearer picture of what's going on.
And it's fascinating how it's all connected.
Yeah.
Like the report talks about the energy transition, right? And we have these old power grids, lots of them designed for fossil fuels, and it makes it way harder to integrate renewables. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
So the old infrastructure holding back the new stuff. That's ironic.
It is, yeah. It shows how past decisions can really bottleneck future progress.
For sure. So does the report have any ideas about how countries can actually make this creative destruction happen? Because it sounds disruptive, and not everyone's going to be happy about it.
You're right, it's a sensitive process, but the report does offer some guidance.
Okay.
It stresses strong institutions, good governance, the countries that can manage this transition well.
Yeah.
Make it fair, transparent. Those are the ones more likely to see positive outcomes.
So it's not just about tearing down the old. You got to build something better in its place.
Exactly. And that takes us back to those three areas we talked about before.
The disciplining incumbents, rewarding merit, and the government stuff.
Yep, all those. They each have a crucial role to play in making sure creative destruction actually leads to positive change.
Okay, makes sense. But I'm still stuck on this capitalizing on crises thing.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of, well, opportunistic, doesn't it?
I get it. But the report makes a good argument.
Okay, how so?
Think about it this way. When a system's already under stress,
Yeah.
there's less resistance to change.
People are more open to new ideas?
Right. It's like when a company's about to go bankrupt, suddenly everyone's willing to try things they would have fought against before.
Okay, I see. So you got to seize the moment, use that momentum from the crisis to push for good changes.
Exactly. And the report uses the current climate and energy crisis as the perfect example.
Okay, yeah.
This crisis, it's making us rethink our whole energy system, right? Invest in new technologies, shift towards a more sustainable model. It's a chance for countries to speed up that transition.
Yeah.
And for those middle-income countries, they could even leapfrog over those older models, the inefficient ones.
So they skip the dirty phase and go straight to clean tech.
Exactly. The report highlights how the demand for green tech is booming right now.
Makes sense.
It's a huge market, and countries that grab that opportunity, they could really benefit.
Imagine a country that goes all in on renewable energy and becomes like the world leader in solar panels.
Right. Not only are they helping the planet,
They're creating jobs.
boosting their economy.
That's a win-win.
It is. But remember, we talked about protectionism from wealthy countries.
Oh, right. Yeah. That could mess things up.
It's a big challenge, one of the biggest the report talks about. You see, some developed countries, they're pushing for the green transition globally, but
What?
they're also putting policies in place to protect their own industries, which could limit the ability of middle-income countries to really benefit from this new green economy.
It's like they're saying, go green, but not too green.
It often feels that way, yeah.
Right.
It reminds us that these global challenges aren't simple.
No, for sure.
There are competing interests, different motivations at play.
So navigating this trap is about balance,
Right.
embracing change, but also being fair, making sure the green transition benefits everyone.
Exactly. It's a tall order.
It is. So can we go back to those three action areas the report talks about?
Sure.
The disciplining incumbents and all that. I want to make sure I understand how those actually work.
Okay, yeah. Let's start with disciplining incumbents.
Okay, remind me who those incumbents are again.
Think of the big players in an economy, large corporations, powerful elites.
The ones at the top.
Yeah. They have benefited from the current system.
And they probably want to keep it that way?
Often, yes. They have a vested interest in maintaining the status quo, even if it's not the best thing for the country overall anymore.
So they might resist change, even if the system's outdated.
Exactly. And that's where disciplining comes in. The report emphasizes fostering competition,
Yeah.
breaking up monopolies, opening markets to new players, making sure everything's fair, even for state-owned businesses.
So no more playing favorites.
Right. It's not about punishing success. It's about making sure everyone has a reason to innovate, to improve.
So keeping things dynamic, shaking things up.
Exactly. You want an environment where innovation is rewarded.
Makes sense. Okay, now what about rewarding merit? That sounds pretty straightforward.
It is, yeah. It's about shifting the focus
From like,
who you know or your family background
okay.
to what you can actually do.
So skills and talent matter most.
Yes. The report stresses investing in education, all levels.
Like from preschool to what, retirement programs?
Well, maybe not that far. But early childhood development is key, and then vocational training, apprenticeships.
Right. Getting people the skills they need for actual jobs.
Exactly. And again, the report highlights some good examples. Finland's education system is famous for focusing on personalized learning and practical skills.
All cool. Okay, so we've got competition, we've got a skilled workforce. Now for the government's role.
This is crucial. The government sets the stage for innovation.
We talked about that a bit before, right?
Yeah, it's not about picking winners, it's about creating the right conditions.
Okay, so investing in research, maybe giving tax breaks to innovative companies, cutting the red tape.
All of that, yep. The report looks at different government policies and what their impact is on innovation. It's about finding that sweet spot, supporting businesses without overwhelming them with bureaucracy.
Right, finding that balance again.
Exactly, and it's different for every country. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all this fits together. Disciplining incumbents is about competition. Rewarding merit is about investing in people.
Yes.
And the government's role is about creating the right environment for innovation.
It all connects.
But this makes me wonder, how do we even measure progress? If it's not just about GDP going up,
Right.
then what are we looking at?
That's a good question. And the report actually talks about some different metrics that give a more well-rounded view of development.
Okay, like what?
One example is economic complexity.
Economic what?
Complexity. It measures a country's ability to produce a variety of products and services, but the key is they have to be sophisticated.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just how much they make, but what they make and how complex it is.
Exactly. A country with high economic complexity, they tend to be more resilient, more adaptable, and more innovative.
Which is what you need to escape this trap.
Exactly. But I know economic complexity, it sounds kind of abstract.
Yeah, a little.
So the report also highlights social mobility.
Which is?
It measures how easily people can move up the economic ladder no matter where they started.
So a country with high social mobility, that means everyone has a fair shot.
Yeah, regardless of their background, their circumstances, it's a good sign of a just and equitable society.
And that's something we can actually see happening, right? It's not just a number.
Right. It's about real people's lives.
This is making me think about technology, too. It seems like it can help, but it can also be a problem.
You're right, it's a double-edged sword. And the report has a whole chapter about the role of technology in this trap.
Oh, wow.
It talks about how tech can help countries jump ahead, leapfrog over those old models.
Yeah.
But it also warns about becoming too reliant on imported tech.
Or falling behind in the innovation race.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance again, right? Using technology to transform things, but also building your own capacity for innovation.
And making sure that technology works for your specific situation.
Right. The report has some cool examples of countries that are doing this well.
Like who?
South Korea, for instance. They invested a lot in research and development, got industry and universities working together, and they built a really skilled workforce.
So they could not only invent new tech, but adapt existing tech, too.
Exactly. They went from importing tech to becoming a global leader in electronics, telecommunications, all that.
That's amazing. It gives me hope that escaping this trap is actually possible.
It is, and it's not just about national level stuff.
What else then?
Individuals, businesses, they have a role to play too.
So even if your whole country's struggling, you can still make a difference.
Absolutely. The report encourages individuals to invest in their skills, keep learning, and get involved in that innovation ecosystem.
Yeah.
And it calls on businesses to adopt new technologies, get better at management, and look for opportunities to collaborate and share knowledge.
It sounds like mindset is important too,
Yeah.
like being open to change, willing to challenge things, believing that progress is possible even when things look tough.
You're absolutely right. It's not just about policies and technology.
It's about attitude.
Yeah, it's about having a culture that supports innovation, collaboration, and working towards a better future together.
This has been really eye-opening. I feel like I have a way better understanding of the middle income trap now
You too.
and of the different paths to progress.
Yeah, definitely.
So, what are the main things you think our listeners should take away from all this?
Good question. I think the most important takeaway is this. The middle income trap is not inevitable.
It's not destiny,
It's a set of choices that countries, individuals, businesses, they all make.
so we have some agency.
Yeah, we do. And if we understand how things work, we can make better choices. Choices that lead to more prosperity, a more sustainable future.
It's empowering.
It is. And the World Bank report has tons of info and insights to help us do just that.
For sure. We'll definitely encourage our listeners to check out the report themselves.
It's a great resource, and it's free.
Awesome. But before we wrap up, I want to go back to something you said earlier about how countries can learn from each other.
Oh, yeah, that's a key point.
Can you give us some specific examples of what that might look like?
Yeah.
Okay, so countries learning from each other. What does that look like in the real world?
Well, think about things like industrial policies. The report talks about how countries like South Korea and Singapore have used them really effectively.
To do what, exactly?
Well, they've used them to promote innovation, really boost their economies.
Okay, how do those policies work?
It's about identifying key sectors, ones with a lot of growth potential, and then providing targeted support.
Like what?
Investing in R&D, tax incentives, making regulations easier to navigate, things like that.
Right, but didn't we talk about how those kinds of policies can sometimes backfire?
You're right, they can. If they're used to protect industries that aren't efficient, or if they stifle competition, it can cause problems.
So it's got to be done carefully.
Yeah, the report emphasizes using them strategically. It's not about propping up failing industries. It's about creating an environment where the best ideas can win out.
So being smart about it, not just throwing money around.
Exactly. And it requires really understanding the global landscape, what's working, what's not.
Makes sense. So what about international organizations like the World Bank?
Hmm.
What's their role in all of this?
Well, the report highlights how important they can be.
How so?
They can be partners, offering expertise, data, financial support.
Like helping hand.
Yeah, for countries trying to escape this trap.
So it's not just every country for themselves.
No, definitely not. Collaboration is key, especially with global challenges like climate change.
Sharing knowledge, sharing resources.
Right. The report really emphasizes the importance of working together.
This whole deep dive has been really eye-opening. I feel like I understand the middle income trap way better now.
Me too. It's complex.
It is, but it's also hopeful.
Definitely. It shows that development is a process, always evolving.
And there's no one right answer.
Nope, you gotta adapt, innovate, learn from what works and what doesn't.
I think that's the biggest takeaway for our listeners. The middle income trap isn't destiny, it's a set of choices.
Exactly. We have the power to shape our future.
And the more we understand the challenges, the better choices we can make.
Absolutely. We encourage everyone to keep learning. The World Bank Report's a great place to start.
Yeah, there's a lot to explore.
But for now, we'll wrap things up here. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We hope you found it insightful, maybe even a little inspiring.
The more we learn about these challenges, the better equipped we are to build a better future.
For everyone.
Exactly.
So until next time, keep learning, keep asking questions.
And keep striving for a brighter future.
We'll see you then.